Thank you. Hey, Tim and Faith. I'm so happy to have you on the Enneagram and Marriage podcast today.
Hello, we're glad to be here.
So glad to be here. We've connected in the past and this will be fun again.
Yep.
Yes, it really will. And of course, our first connections, I'm remembering, as I know everyone is with you, is the whole Tim and Faith journey of, country music, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't sing, or at least I don't sing.
Yeah, we're not the famous singers.
But I will,
Tim and Faith.
yeah, but I will say that you have a beautiful voice, Faith. So you are such a worshipful person, and I know you love that.
I do love music and love worship, and I connect with God that way. He speaks to me big time through worship, and lots of big moments in my life. That's where the connection has been. So yeah, you are right. But not country music, unfortunately.
Or fortunately, if you're any of us. No, I'm just joking. I know a lot of people love it. And when I'm with my husband, I like it. So I kind of go into that chameleon type 3 space when I'm with him. And I'm like, I love this. And then when he's not there, I'm like, no country music.
No country music. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are the 5-2 couple. And what's so interesting is our guest last week on the podcast was talking about a pairing of opposites. And she used those two as an example. And I said, we've got this couple coming up. So tell us about your 2-5 love and how you met and all that.
Yeah. So let me start with how
Go ahead. Yep, you go ahead. He'll be more concise. I'll probably go on and talk too much about it. So
she will add flavor.
Yes.
But we met, I was working for an organization in the Midwest, a nonprofit ministry, and had been there for a couple of years. And my sister was at college in Pennsylvania. Unbeknownst to me, with Faith. And Faith she graduated from college and had decided to also join this same nonprofit organization for a period. So my sister cut her picture out of the yearbook and sent it to me and said, this hot girl, I don't know if she actually said that, but that's my memory. This hot girl is coming to join. You need to get to know her. She's amazing. And so I had the picture, in my cabin, and I was waiting for her day to arrive. And when she got there, I said, I will be carrying your luggage for you. Still am to this day.
That is true. That is true. Introduced me to the whole crew, and made me feel very, very welcome.
Oh my goodness. That must have been so special to have somebody waiting for you to serve right there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Nice. Especially as a 2 who serves everybody else. Yeah. Yeah. And it just made me feel welcome. It was a very nice way to start that. And then that started a really good friendship. He was very kind and was easy to talk to and funny, and
I had ulterior motives. I was convinced within a week that I was going to marry her, but it was a year before she acknowledged that we were even dating.
Yeah.
So it took a while. It was a long way.
Oh, were you just sensitive, Faith? Like you were like, I'm shy and I don't want to fully commit, or what was going through your mind in this time?
Honestly, at that time, I had just come out of a bad relationship. And so I was not interested in guys. I didn't feel threatened by him. I felt like he was just very kind and fun. And, I wasn't catching the vibes that there was more interest there. So I just felt very safe around him. I'd be myself and not had to put up pretenses. And because I wasn't looking for a relationship, it was easy just to be friends for that whole first year. So yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It was a really good way to start, to build that friendship first.
Yeah. And then that next summer, there was a time at which I said to her, I love you. And she said, okay. And it was a month or so later before she returned those words.
Thank you for that.
That's another way you can answer the I love you. I love that, you guys.
I just wasn't ready to say it back yet. And I wasn't going to say it when I wasn't ready yet. So
yeah, that's really, look at you being a type 2 to set boundaries, modeling for others. amazing. And I know 2s and 5s have a lot in common. A lot of people don't realize 2s, 5s, and 8s are all relationalists. So people think it's a marriage of opposites, but it's actually two very caring people, one usually more introverted and one more extroverted. And also, of course, you guys know you can show up in different spaces and ways. So, but you didn't just start there. You built a life together and you're still going strong. So tell us about your family and a little bit more about what you guys are doing out there.
Yeah. We'll talk about the kids.
Yes. One thing I was going to say, when you said 2s and 5s are both caring, and maybe we'll go into this later, but I was just telling Tim the other day that I feel like people feel very safe. And we talked about this before when we were interacting. People feel very safe around him. They feel like, he takes care of the details, and he's just a safe person to like. So when I look at our friendships and different friendships we go back to from the past and everything, I can see that people just really trust him and trust who he is and how he cares for them. So anyway, I think you're right. I think, that 5 cares in a different way than a 2 does,
Yep. And I just think it's such a misconception when we meme people too much. And even though I try to do that on Fun Fridays on my Instagram account, I really am careful to try not to do too much of that unless we're just having a light, fun time, because it could be really misconstrued to, we don't care. All we do is party. This one over here is 100% selfish. So it's nice to put some color on it here with how caring Tim is. And of course, we know that about you, Faith. So yes, tell us about the kids, Faith.
So we have 4 kids. They're all grown. Our oldest just turned 29 and she lives in Nashville, Tennessee. She has 2 dogs and she works as a BCBA at an autism clinic, has her master's in that, helps with, kiddos, the autistic kiddos. Our second daughter is in South Bend. She and her boyfriend work at he owns a coffee shop. She works with him, but they're kind of growing it together, and we just opened it up a few months ago, and it is going crazy. It's very much like they grind the coffee beans, they make the coffee, they make it's very much from beginning to end. They do it all, So people love that.
And chocolate.
Yes. And chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
And then there's
like $12 chocolate bars. So
yeah.
You have to really like chocolate.
Oh, we do.
It's really good though. Yes, we do. It's really good.
But if you live in Northern Indiana, check out Cloud Walking Coffee.
My gosh. My brother's family lives in Valpo. So when they go to South Bend, and when we get there, I'll have to go. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great place. And they have another lady that works there that does bakery stuff and another that does macaroons. She makes them from scratch, and they are the best macaroons I have ever had in my entire life.
Oh, wow. And a lot of our listeners live in that area. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay. So
really
that's
good.
her, your second.
That's her.
Yep.
And then our son, Hunter, lives there too. He's a mechanical engineer and works in that area as well. Then we have our youngest is a junior at Baylor University in Waco, Texas.
That's
so
awesome.
And he's doing theater and business and is going to rock the world when he gets out.
100%.
Wow. Sure.
Yeah, those are beautiful ventures.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So tell me about you guys. Do you feel like now that you've raised the kids and they're busy still with you, I know you're probably in and out of each other's lives still quite a bit. What's that like? Actually, before I get to that question, let me ask this one because it's even more on that 2 and 5 thing. Tell us what it's like to be the 2-5 pairing. In addition to, you said we're both very caring and relational. What other insights did you guys get either from the Glow Guide or just in life, obviously?
Yeah, I would think we've, we didn't know that language when we got married. So we're learning that in the last few years, but I think the things that we do for each other. So she's very social. I can be relational in my very comfortable settings. And so she's learned to just give me space to re-energize. And whether it's coming home at the end of the day, because when she's at home, there'll be music or, something on TV or whatever. There'll be lots of noise. And when I come home, like I need to like decompress. And so she'll turn everything off and she'll give me space for an hour or so. And then she'll also give me lots of warning, because I can't be like, it can't be 6 o'clock and she says, hey, let's go party. Like that's not going to work with me. I need space and time to like ramp up for that. And so she'll do that so that I can engage in a social environment like that with lots of people or strangers. And which is really good. But then that allows me to do that and not have to, she pulls me out of my comfort zone at times.
Yes, that's beautiful that you've learned to do that, Faith, because that really allows you to bring him, versus we've heard other people with 5s on the podcast say it went from a dragging to a bringing.
Yeah, it does take a understanding, because I mean, like you said, I would just be going full bore all the time, people party. I mean, I would want to be doing stuff all the time. And it's just not where he's at. And so if I want to really appreciate, enjoy those times, we need to have them spaced out. The thing I appreciate that he does is because he knows that I love the social things. I feel like we have a pretty regular balance of like having neighbors over or getting to know a couple that we don't know from church, or or outings. Like even we do some Broadway things, some Broadway theater. And so we've got a few of those on the calendar, and they're kind of spread out, where we know that those are coming. And, and then every once in a while I'll be like, hey, I really want to do this one thing or whatever. And he's just always, he never says, no, I don't want to do that. He's always like, well, let's figure out a time. So he's working with me too, because he knows that I like those kinds of things. And I don't want to just stay home all the time. I like to get out and explore and meet people and all that. So it is a good balance. But when he comes home from work, he definitely needs some time to just kind of sit and answer email and decompress and whatever. And I know that. And so now that's just like, I just plan on that. Like, I don't want to have dinner ready this minute he walks in the door, because I know he's going to need a little bit of time first. So even things like that, just you figure it out, but it works smoother when you know how each other works,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I love how you were saying that it took time, but that in time you really did find such a benefit from doing these new dances together. And I like that, because a lot of people listening are thinking, why aren't we working at the beginning of our marriage? And it's time and years and patience and tears, right?
Yeah. And even like your phase that you're in, like when the kids are little, and they depend on you. When dad comes home, he may not be able to, like, I don't know how much time I gave you when the kids were little to like, sometimes it was like, okay, I've had them all day and I'm at my wit's end and you need to take over and I need a break, so sometimes there was that, and then they get older and sometimes it's like, well, you walked in the door, I got to go do these errands or whatever now, or I got to take so-and-so to basketball practice or whatever. And I guess not basketball practice. We didn't have basketball practice, but we had soccer and we had some running. We had some races to go to. But those kinds of things where depending on your phase, well, now we're empty nesters. There aren't the kids and all of that stuff. So I do have a little more like leeway as far as how our schedule, it's just up to the two of us. And so,
when the kids were little, my practice was to like leave my work when I walked in the door. And so that might mean I drive home and I'm sitting in the driveway for 10 minutes finishing something before I walk in the door, so that when I walked in, I could be fully present for the kid, the kids, depending on their age, and for her, and just to jump in and help. And I'm sure I failed at that sometimes, but that was kind of my goal, was to do that. I think another thing, I don't know if this is a 2-5 thing, a male-female thing, but I think the sense of like knowing, like, because she's so social and relational and really needs that, and I can't give her everything she needs in that. And I think early on that was a struggle for us, because of all the idealism that you go into marriage, thinking that we're going to be everything for each other, and I couldn't be. And so like figuring out over time that like it's really healthy for our marriage for her to have a really good girlfriend, or for her to have, interests outside of me and our marriage, that just hobbies or whatever, things she can connect with others. That's a very healthy thing for us. And then when we're together, we can be we can bring more of our whole selves into that has been really helpful.
Wow, that's really huge. And I'm reminded of how so many twos say, sometimes I want my spouse to be with me, and then their spouse and they have to take the time to learn, hang on, slow down. If you can slow down long enough, because twos get going so fast on what we kind of say is the internal hamster wheel. If they can slow down and schedule, they can find their spouse usually does want to spend time with them if they can catch them. So that's nice. And of course, she was, of course, reality check for so many who have littles that are running all over. Sometimes you do have to run out the door, but I'm also tracking back so that everyone can pick up on the fact that Tim said as a 5, sometimes he could take those extra minutes even in the driveway. So if your wife sees you or your husband, and I know you work as a special ed teacher and have worked as a special ed teacher as well, Faith, but whoever is the 5 in the relationship, male or female, might be sitting in the driveway. So let them sit there for a bit, because when they do come in, we know from John Gottman's Amazing Marriage Research, et cetera, that the comings and the goings are so important. So when you do come in, it's so nice to be able to give 5 seconds of, hi, oh my gosh, great to see you. Or even when you're a 5 and you're like, hi, but then you need a little time in your cave, that's nice too. But at least you said a nice hello, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yes, the cave is important.
Yes.
Exactly. Any other tips before we talk about goals? Because I know we're setting goals on this podcast all month, and you're going to help us a little bit with that. But anything else you want 2 5 pairings to know, or anyone married to a 2 or a 5?
I think, I don't remember all the triads, but I'm pretty sure I'm in the head triad, right?
Yes. Yep.
And the 2 is the heart.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm learning more about myself in that. I really do live in my head a lot. And she's learning how to pull me out of that, and to be able to pull what's in there out, because I don't know how, or I don't know that I'm doing that, or necessarily how to communicate that. She's actually found, I think in recent years, when I'm like in work mode and I'm talking to a work associate, I've got that lever clicked in my head, and so I'm like just engaged, and she just like leans into that, and she learns a lot about what's in my head through those conversations, like through overhearing, and then she can ask me about it later. And that's actually been, I think it was probably a frustration, and maybe it's turned into just
because I would want to know things about what's going on, and because he has always had such a desire to, when he gets home, to not do work, like to be at home. So, but then I like feel like I'm missing out on this whole part of his day that, like, well, what happened at work, and what meetings did you have, and what happened? And I want to know, I want to be engaged in his work as well, and just know what's going on. So then, yeah, exactly. So when he has had conversations with other people that we know that he works with, I'm like, they know the questions to ask. He feels, he doesn't have to explain to them because they kind of already know, but yet if I can listen, I learn things. And it's just been it has been a good thing, because it's frustrating to be like, I want to know about your day, but I don't know what the questions to ask. I don't know how to find out more about what's going on in your life, in that aspect of your life, But yeah, that has been really good to listen to, other couples. We work at a church right now, and so we're friends with them. So then when we get together for dinner or different things, and they have conversations about what's going on at work, it's like, I can just listen and learn all the things. And it's nice to be a part of his life, in that way. So.
Oh my gosh, you guys said a lot there about maturing together and learning. Like you said, even Tim said, this is almost like it was a side route. I talk a lot about how we can't always get to our perfect virtue right away. Like, oh, I found out who I am, and now it's just, I have to be perfect. We have to take routes that fit and that work. And that is a beautiful side route that Faith tried out in Faith. That is actually really impressive for a 2, because 2s can be thinking inhibited just as 5s can be heart inhibited. And so it's fascinating that she is listening. She's not manipulating the situation the way a newlywed 2 can, of, I have the ideal, it's going to have to be this one way. And she's actually doing what an interesting dance with putting on some of the 2-5 glow of rubbing off on each other, because she's doing the 5 observer. So I love that, Faith, that you've picked up on that.
Interesting. That is interesting.
You're doing it.
You're an observer,
I guess. There definitely is some truth to that. I mean, after 32 years of being together, there's I mean, there's things that he does, he gets more like me and I get more like him in some ways. And yeah, all the good, of course, all the good.
We never rub off on bad areas.
It's been interesting in the last, I don't know how many years, a lot of the social things that we do with others, I'm the one initiating them.
It's true.
Which is a spin, and it's a switch for us. And she loves it anytime I bring it up, but I tend to be the one initiating those things, as long as they can be calendared and they can be spread out, and I can have
not every night
prep time for
but
that.
maybe once or twice a week we'll have like something social like that, and it's perfect.
Yeah. And it's so neat because if we had married somebody exactly like us, then we wouldn't have all these opportunities for growth that you see over the years. Because I noticed that in our marriage as well, that often Wes is the fun one and I'm sitting there in the head triad, not in the most fun of ways. And it's like, thank God that I rubbed off on you 20 some years ago, because I'm no longer fun. So it's really cool. So thank you for sharing that. So tell us, well, I know it's different every season, but tell us a little bit about how you got to do some goal setting, even when the kids were young, even in the early years and through now. Any tips you have for couples who say, I really don't want to put it off for 20, 30 years till we're empty nesters, but I have some important things I want to do with this marriage. Did you ever take time over dates or life at all to sit down, or did you just let life happen? I'm guessing there's some planning with Tim involved, but tell us.
Yeah, I would say probably the thing that's been true throughout our marriage in that regards is taking, and we started this when Faith was carrying our first child, was having at least a week every year for just the two of us with no kids. Really hard in the baby, toddler, breastfeeding era of life, but
and we didn't live close to family, so it was finding friends that we could trade with, and so and not giving all of our, because we had 4 kids, so at one point it was like finding 4 families or different families, or I think we maybe sent the girls to the same place. But anyway, so you're not overwhelming someone who already has their own kids, take care of all 4 of ours.
There's a couple, and I wish I remember their name, that we had a conversation with when she was carrying Heather, our first, and they said like that and said, you're, it's gonna be gone like that. And we're like, what are you talking about? It's like raising kids, it's gonna be gone like that. And this couple was, I don't know, they felt old, but they're probably our age now. But they may have been 60s. I don't know, but they just had encouraged us to really focus on each other, because too soon you're going to be back to just the two of you. And if everything you do is built around kids, then you're not going to have anything in common. And so we made some decisions then to really focus on that. And I was thinking the other day, it was 27 years from the time that time until our youngest went to college. And who knows if he's gone for good? I don't know. We'll find out. We think we're empty nesters. We don't know.
Right. True.
But that's a long time, but it's also a really quick time. 27 years, you're looking back on it. It's like, yeah, that didn't last long, even though when you're in it, it feels like it's for freaking ever.
Especially when they're little.
Yes.
All the energy that's invested in the time. And yeah.
That's beautiful that you maintained your relationship, but you're not putting up a fake kind of, you're not putting up a curtain to say like, I won't let you guys hear that it was also hard. And that at times it felt like it was dragging by, but that now looking back, it was so fast. And so you did need these touch points. And it sounds like you didn't, because you didn't have family close, as many listeners don't. You also had to be really creative and sometimes maybe miss out and do at-home dates. Is that true?
Oh yeah, definitely. Or just real inexpensive things, or do stuff when the kids are engaged in something else. We took advantage. We used our community. We did not try. I know some people try to do everything on their own and just be, just do everything. And I think you're missing out when you do that. Like we took advantage of carpools, and we took advantage of friends and trading date nights and just different things. We did have one couple, we would trade like all of 4 of our kids, and they only had 1 child. So this is a really good friend. really good friend.
Yes.
But they would take all 4 of our kids for a couple of hours, and then we would take their one kid for a couple of hours. And so every other week or every couple of weeks, we would switch back and forth. And so one of us would, one of us couples would get a date night.
Yeah.
And that was just really helpful. Really, really helpful. Didn't last forever, but it was for a season.
I don't know if some of your listeners have heard of Stephen Covey, but kind of a famous business guy back in the day. But he had this illustration that applies to family, where he'd put a big jar on the stage and he'd have big rocks and little rocks, and he would prove that if you try to put all the little and big and whatever and fit it together, you're not going to get as much in. You put the big rocks in first, and then whatever fits after that. So the big rocks being your priorities. And so when I think about that, like with our calendar, with our planning, like when you're raising kids, especially toddlers, littles, there's never a good time for a vacation or a date night, or even a conversation. It's just never going to happen. But if you determine that's a priority, and like that's going on the calendar first, that is the most important thing we're going to do, then you work everything else around it, and you kind of figure out how to make it work. And I think, I don't want to be mystical, but like in the early years, we had no money, no margin. $5 a week was, I think, our discretionary income at the time.
Yeah.
But it was like the commitment to like doing date nights, or the commitment to like, somehow it would happen. Somehow someone said, hey, we've got a place, you can stay in our place, we're going to be gone. I mean, things just happened where we could do it on the cheap and still keep it as a priority.
And when you're planning for those kinds of trips and the kids are little, it would feel sometimes like it was so much work. Like, I can't tell you how many times we would be the week before, and I would be like stressed out of my brain trying to pack for 4 kids and figure out our stuff and all the things. And you're like, is this even worth it? Like, this is so much work to do this vacation for just, and then you get on vacation, and after like a day or two, you're like, oh my goodness, now I remember why we got married, because I love being with you. Like, you have to push through that, like, no matter how hard it is and how much you think this is too much work. Like, once you get to that other side, and it really is worth it. But it's not easy. It's not like, you know what I'm saying.
I sure do. Yeah. And the kids will make you pay for it sometimes as they get older, and they're not just in diapers, and they're like, oh, I can't believe you left me with so-and-so. Especially if you have like any body type kids, like I have a justice oriented type 9. So there was always a word about a boy who was bad. It's just like, you get tired of it and you're like, forget it, I'm not doing it anymore. But then you're like, I'm desperate. And if I don't have a lifeline, like you said, those rocks at the bottom, it's like, these are the priorities. So I'm glad every single couple listening, or person, if they're not even yet married, can know we have to prioritize our special date times together. Like, there is no giving that away. And as you guys are saying, like, it will work out. It needs to be the priority. So just as a fun aside, what are 1 or 2 of your favorite types of date nights, or dates that you've had, or things you like to do?
I don't know that we're super creative. We love movies. I mean, honestly, I love going to a big flick and dinner, and then of course, Broadway. I just love Broadway. Again, music, but like, we've done that a few times, and I love that.
Yeah. When we moved up here, we bought legit bikes. We always had the Walmart version, but we bought actually good bikes. And so we do bike rides, from May to October, probably once a week, for a couple hours. And so that's now that the bikes are paid for, it's a free date night. So it's nice to spend time together outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Discover nature together. And it's been really fun. We've enjoyed it.
And you're really getting out of your head and even your heart to just get that third triad with the body that neither of you are always in. And even the Broadway kind of brings all the 5 senses to life in a different way. So I'm hearing that you like to, fully kind of encompass the best of head, heart, and body on those dates. So I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So tell us about how faith has intersected with life, with kids, with marriage for you guys.
And you don't mean Faith, my wife.
Thanks for the clarification. That's a really important one.
She intersects all the ways.
Yes. And I did ask permission to ask this question, because not everyone wants to come on and talk about faith, but you guys said, sure. So.
Yeah. I think the thing, for me, so I've since well, since Megan was born. So, since our second was born or coming into the world, I've been a pastor or around the church world. And so one thing that was important to us in that is there's a whole lot of grown up angry church kids in the world, pastors' kids that have very bad experiences because their mom and or dad were married to the church. And so we just tried to I think we tried to give space for that. We felt like environments where they're around positive influences were a great thing. So sending them to camps and youth groups and things like that were really helpful. But I think then towards the most fun times for me in parenting were the teenage years and even the 20 somethings where you can engage on an intellectual level. And a lot of times I think parents may make the mistake to think they're supposed to give the answer. Whereas we've just focused on let's just have the conversation. Let's have a really robust conversation, and let's not pretend like I have an edge on the truth that you don't have. Let's figure that out together. And I think
he's been really good at that. I've watched him interact with our kids a lot, and I do feel like he has a really good way of. I don't know why this is, but sometimes my questions can sound like a interrogation. He can ask the same question, and it's like they're having a conversation and it just kind of flows. And I'm like, how do you do that? I don't know. But anyway, he's really good at just asking questions and a lot of times, not making the decision for them. And then they come around and it's a good decision just because I think they feel heard and, it's a safe place to talk things out,
I think it gives space. I mean, even now in their 20s, there's seasons where it's like, okay, I still love God. I just don't like the church. And I'm like, really? Me too sometimes. Or, I still believe in Jesus, but Christians annoy me. It's like, really? Me too. Let's talk about that. So I think it's good. It keeps the relationship intact, even if, we're at different perspectives or have different lenses. It enables the conversation to keep moving forward.
Which your kids are going to do as they grow. They're going to have their own perspective. They're going to become adults that are thinking their own things through, and they're going to see things different than you do. They're not meant to be exact replicas of us, where we influence them and then they become their own person. So yeah, you don't want to ruin that relationship just because they don't think exactly like you do.
And that just shows how much you've grown as a thinker, Faith, over years and time. And you said, I watched my husband with them, and you drunk that up. You learned this is a safe, good way. And of course, safety triad. And we're already saying, oh my gosh, you're so good socially, and you just nurture and love socially so well. So you've brought him to that. But I like that you've gifted each other with these things because clearly your children have benefited. And even though no parent is perfect, they've been able to figure it out with you guys. And they're still figuring it out, like you said, because they're not replicas.
We are too, I mean, we're figuring it out too. So
yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Do you guys have any other tips just as you're thinking about families trying to balance, trying to goal get, trying to just maintain marriage fun during the big years of all through the middle, or even if you're like, hey, we already covered that, but something for couples, even now that you're in the empty nest years, anything just as a final thought?
One thought that connects to what we talked about earlier and the importance of investing in your marriage while you're in those intense parenting years is that identity piece is so big and way bigger than we ever thought it was, as far as Faith's identity as a mom to Heather, Megan, Hunter, and Taylor. And then my identity as a dad. And in our case, during the formative years, she was staying at home. So it really affected probably her more, whereas I also had an identity as I had a job and stuff, but outside of that, but I think it's really hard to go from, I think maybe especially for two, I've got these four, little humans that need me.
Which a two loves.
Every day.
He loves to be needed.
Every week of every month of every year. And then it seems like that, it's not, because they segue out slowly, but it seems like that suddenly it's like, I'm not needed anymore. And I don't know what my purpose is. And I think us connecting throughout the years was helpful with that, but then you had your own journey to kind of figure that out.
True.
after we moved to Texas for a season. So we kind of, we uprooted, which was hard at the same time that the kids were uprooting. So,
which was where we met you, because we were talking through some of those things, and, you know, you heard a lot of that, like figuring out then as a 2 who loves to be needed and losing some of the people who need her, you know, and kind of figuring out again, okay, then who am I if I'm not, you know, involved on a daily basis with all the kids and all their needs, and he's doing well at work. And so then what do I do? So then figuring out, that was where we jumped in. I jumped into the school, the elementary school with the special needs program, and just being able to help there and figuring out a new way, a new place to be needed and to be able to give input and all of that.
A new place to be needed. Okay. So that gave you a new place to be needed. Can you say that again really quick?
Yeah.
Thought my phone was off.
Loves to be needed. And I even would say needs to be needed in some ways, you know, not that that's my entire identity, but just, you know, that's the way God created me, was to give, to be supportive to people. And so, yeah, to find a healthy place where you can work together with a team and be part of something productive and healthy, you know?
Yeah.
And then 2, to be away from the home and to be able to have those experiences where it's a new thing to share as a couple, you know, is really good too.
So really nice to recommend to people. Don't be afraid to work it out or to feel like it's rocky whenever you enter a new transition, because you get new pieces of yourself. And I also like how, Faith, you're so positive. I know 2s are generally positive, but just the Enneagram can be very, very negative and heavy when we don't remember that we also have personalities on a positive level of gifts. And so if we just said, I'm sorry, you're a 2 and you like to be with people who need you, it's like, you're missing out that people literally need you. And so I'm thinking of Florence Nightingale, recently reading in a history piece that this little boy said, you know, who is Florence Nightingale? And he basically said, she's everything to me. I didn't have a mother. And you've had different moments, like you said, with your kids, with other people's kids, where you could be that nurturing person instead of like, oh, okay, I did my Enneagram work, or my kids are gone and I have to shut that part of myself up. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys are always teaching me, and just, I love it so much. And I'm so hoping that our audience can continue to glean. I know it's busy, but if there's a way you can tell us how people can just follow you or get in touch with you, let us know. We'd love to keep doing that.
Yeah. Faith is on Instagram. Is that where you're mostly?
Probably,
more than
yeah.
Facebook, Instagram at Full-Time Mama 6.
Yep. That was mine.
And what's that?
I think that's right.
Yep. And I am less frequent on Instagram at Tim A. Stevens. But I do blog at leadingsmart.com. And so that's mostly targeted for church leaders and pastors, but I think there's carryover for others as well.
I do too. A lot of value in the wisdom you guys have. I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful. So I know our listeners are. I'm so hyped up for this episode. So thank you guys so much for sharing your time and your hearts with us today.
You are very welcome. It's our pleasure. It's nice to see you again.
You too.